Chris Jericho has earned massive respect throughout his career through grit, reinvention, and pure determination. He fought his way to the top of the wrestling business. However, not everyone he worked with earned his respect. Some wrestlers he downright hated. One of Jericho's earliest feuds came at the start of his career in Mexico. While wrestling there, he clashed with Vampiro, who was already a megastar in EMLL. Jericho accused Vampiro of acting friendly to his face while secretly sabotaging his career. Although the two men never wrestled each other, Jericho hated being around him. "The more time I spent in Mexico, the less I wanted to be around Vamp," Jericho later recalled. Jericho explained that he had received a big push from the company when he arrived at EMLL, and Vampiro didn't like it. Despite both being Canadian and sharing an interest in music, Vampiro's actions showed he had no interest in friendship. In response, Vampiro stated that Jericho was insignificant to him back in the early 90s and that he barely remembers him. More recently, he has described Jericho as a poser, especially in reference to his music career. While Vampiro was a top star in Mexico, Jericho's time in WCW brought him into conflict with another major name, Goldberg. Jericho tried to make a name for himself by starting a feud with the big man. At the time, he had established himself as a great cruiserweight wrestler, but wanted to climb to the next level. Week after week, Jericho called out Goldberg, mocking him and claiming he was afraid to face him. Goldberg was red hot at the time, and Jericho played an effective heel. It was easy for fans to hate him. Jericho's idea was for Goldberg to squash him in seconds during a pay-per-view match, giving Goldberg a boost while elevating Jericho to the mid-card level. However, Goldberg refused. He didn't want to participate in what he called a comedy angle, and the feud was dropped entirely. Jericho expressed frustration at the rejection, feeling it undermined all his effort. As a young talent in WCW, Jericho often struggled to gain respect. Goldberg wasn't the only personality he clashed with. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, two influential figures in WCW, were notorious for undermining younger talent. Nash once referred to wrestlers like Jericho as vanilla midgets, dismissing their significance. Hall was equally dismissive. "Scott Hall came up to me and told me, 'Nobody's coming to see you. Get in, do your 5-10 minutes, and get out.' I remember thinking, wow, what in a hole. Why would you say that?" Jericho's close friend Scott Norton, who had worked with him in Japan, encouraged Jericho to stand up for himself. When Hall made another snide comment, Jericho confronted him. "I told him, 'Don't ever talk to me like that again. Understand?'" Jericho recalled. Hall tried to dismiss it as a joke, but Jericho didn't back down. Norton smiled in support, but Jericho admitted that Hall's behavior was disappointing, given his talent. The disrespect extended to WCW's commentary team. Larry Zbyszko often pointed out Jericho's smaller size compared to stars like Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan. Jericho later wrote in his autobiography that Zbyszko was one of the worst commentators he had ever encountered. In 1999, Jericho left WCW's toxic atmosphere and signed with the WWF. Yet, his frustrations didn't end there. When Goldberg joined the WWE in 2003, the tension between him and Jericho resurfaced. Goldberg had reportedly talked behind Jericho's back, dismissing him as too small to be a main eventer. Their feud culminated in a backstage altercation, where Goldberg grabbed Jericho by the throat. Jericho didn't back down, taking Goldberg down with a front face lock before other wrestlers broke up the fight. Although they shook hands afterward, the bad blood never fully evaporated. Jericho's struggles in the WWF also included a feud with Chyna over the Intercontinental title. Jericho found working with her incredibly frustrating due to her lack of proper training and stiffness in the ring. "She was terrible to work with," Jericho admitted. "She wasn't good but thought she was. No one gave me credit for making her look good." Despite the challenges, Jericho's first major angle in the WWE helped solidify his career. Fast forward to 2002, Jericho became the undisputed WF champion, defeating both The Rock and Steve Austin in one night. However, his reign was overshadowed by a storyline involving Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Jericho was portrayed as Stephanie's lackey, and his championship run ended with Triple H defeating him at WrestleMania. "It was a miserable first title reign, thanks to Triple H and Stephanie," Jericho later said. By 2019, Jericho joined AEW, where he saw himself as a locker room leader. However, tension arose when CM Punk joined the company in 2021. Punk's controversial comments about AEW's management led to a backstage fight with the Elite. Jericho didn't hold back, reportedly telling Punk, "You're a cancer to the locker room and a detriment to the company." In another incident, Jericho had a falling out with MVP. Their feud escalated during a wrestling-themed cruise, where MVP reportedly knocked Jericho out. Years later, they clashed again at a hotel, where MVP invited Jericho to settle the score outside. Jericho declined, reportedly calling MVP a jobber as the elevator doors closed. Despite these conflicts, Chris Jericho remains a legend in professional wrestling, respected for his ability to reinvent himself and persevere through adversity.